The doctor's words cut through the fog of my fever. I was lying in an ICU bed at 26 years old. My body on fire from a ruptured appendix. "I'm sorry." "Clara," he said, his face grim. "It's ruptured. You're septic. We need to get you into surgery right now." I tried to nod, but the pain was a white-hot sheet. "The problem," he continued, "is your allergy to standard anesthesia. The protocol we have to use is high risk. I need immediate parental consent to proceed." My hands were shaking too hard to even hold my phone. He'd already called my parents, David and Susan. They hadn't answered. Then, a text message pinged. The doctor read it aloud, his voice flat with disbelief. "We're at the Parade of Homes Gala. We're with clients. Can't it be food poisoning? She's always so dramatic." My name is Clara, and as I lay there, literally dying, that was the text I got from my own parents. I recovered in the quiet safety of my Grandpa Paul's small house in Inglewood. It was a 1,950 seconds ranch filled with the smell of sawdust and old books. It was everything my parents' house was not law. Their house, a $1 million Mountain View monstrosity in a gated community, was one of their own creations. A sterile, glass and steel box designed to be photographed, not lived in. It was the flagship model for their company, Legacy Homes. That's what they called it, Legacy Homes. The irony was suffocating. You see, that text from the hospital wasn't a shock. It was just the receipt. It was the final invoice for a debt I'd been paying my whole life. I was the silent partner in Legacy Homes, the invisible architect. I remembered being 19, in my second year of architecture school, when my father, David, entered a design competition. He won. The award hung in his office. The design was mine. I'd stayed up for 3 weeks, fueled by caffeine and a desperate need for his approval. Aiming to finish the renderings for him. Good practice. He'd called it. For the next 7 years, I was their unpaid draftsman. Every time they were in a bind, every time a client needed last-minute changes for a Parade of Homes entry, my phone would ring. It was always, "Clara, honey, just a quick favor." I'd spend all night fixing floor plans, redlining blueprints, all while working my actual job at a small, respected firm in Denver. My parents hated my job, a boutique firm my mother, Susan, would say, her voice dripping with pity, "Clara, it's a dead end. When are you going to join the family business? Your father built this for you." They saw my life as a string of failures. My small apartment in Ladue, a failure to launch. My modest 10% raise, that's nice. "Dear, your father's on track to clear 7 figures this year." My used Subaru, the one with 90,000 miles that I'd saved for myself, my father walked around it once, kicked a tire, and said, "This is what I'm talking about. Clara, no ambition." But here, in Grandpa Paul's house, I felt a lifetime of ambition, just a different kind. He was a master cabinet maker. He was my mother's father, and he'd watched her transform from his daughter into his son-in-law's polished, empty business partner. When I moved into my failure apartment, he didn't criticize the peeling paint. He showed up with his tools and a piece of reclaimed oak. He taught me how to sand, how to stain, how to feel the grain of the wood. And for my 25th birthday, he gave me a small, hand-carved wooden box. It was simple, elegant, and perfect. The joints were so precise you couldn't see them. "This," he'd said, running a thumb over the lid, "is what's real. It takes patience. It takes honesty. Don't you ever let them tell you that their shortcuts are a legacy?" I was sitting in his guest room, staring at that box on the nightstand, the painkillers making my head fuzzy. When it hit me, my relationship with my parents wasn't a family. It was a transaction. I'd been their emotional and creative line of credit for 2 decades. And in the ICU, when they were at their gala, they had finally, decisively, defaulted. David and Susan finally made an appearance 5 days after my surgery. 5 days? I watched from the living room window as their black BMW pulled up to Grandpa's curb. They stepped out. Not like people visiting a sick relative, but like they were arriving for a hostile business meeting. My father, David, wore a crisp polo with the Legacy Homes logo embroidered over his heart. My mother, Susan, had her hair perfectly styled, and she was checking her reflection in the car window. They walked in, and the first words out of my father's mouth were, "God, this place is tiny. I forgot how small your father's houses always were." Susan. My mother just gave a tight little smile, her eyes scanning the simple, clean living room with a look of undisguised distaste. She didn't hug me. She didn't ask about the searing, constant pain in my abdomen. She hovered by the door, a few feet away from the recliner, where I was propped up with pillows. "Glada, you look pale," she said, as if she were observing a poorly chosen paint swatch. "You really should try to get some color. It's not a good look." My father was already checking his watch. "So, the doctor said you're fine." "Right. Good. How long until you're back on your feet? We're starting the new Cherry Creek development. And I really need your design input on the main floor plans. The clients are particular." I just stared at him. The audacity was so profound it left me breathless. I had a 6-inch incision held together with staples. I had almost died from sepsis. And he was worried about design input. I'm not sure," I said, my voice hoarse. "They said recovery is 6 to 8 weeks, minimum." "Weeks?" My father scoffed, a look of genuine annoyance on his face. "That's absurd. It was just an appendix. You're young. You'll bounce back. We need to get those drafts locked by the end of the month." "Glada, there's a lot riding on this." My mother chimed in. "He's right. Honey, we can't delay the Cherry Creek project. It's very important for the brand." And as they stood there, perfectly framed against my grandfather's humble fireplace, I finally saw it. It wasn't just their usual callous self-absorption. This was different. It was panic. Their eyes were too bright. My father's jaw was clenched, so tight a muscle jumped in his cheek. And my mother's smile was a brittle, stretched thing. They weren't just ambitious for this new project. They were desperate for it. I finally understood Legacy Homes was just that, a name. It wasn't a solid, successful business. It was an image built on leverage. A house of cards built on debt, held together with shiny fixtures and faked smiles for magazine spreads. It's what you call a fragile legacy complex. Their entire identity, their sense of self-worth, wasn't just tied to their success. It was tied to the image of their success. They weren't just afraid of failing. They were terrified of being seen as failures. And in their world, anything that didn't serve that image was a threat. A sick daughter wasn't family to be cared for. She was a liability, an inconvenient line item on a balance sheet. As I watched them, they started bickering in hushed, angry tones by the door. I caught fragments: loan extension, interest rates, can't hold us off another month. I realized they didn't just want this new development, they needed it. They needed it to plug a massive financial hole, a hole so big it was about to swallow their entire fragile world. My father turned back to me, his smile all business again. "Just try to rest up quickly. Okay, we'll check in next week." They were gone in under 10 minutes. They left behind only the faint, suffocating smell of expensive perfume and a cold, creeping dread that settled deep in the pit of my stomach. They weren't just bad parents. They were drowning. And they were looking for a lifeline. That cold, creeping dread didn't leave when they did. It settled in. Their panic was so obvious, so rough, that it started to feel like a threat. I was lying awake that night, my incision throbbing, when a new thought, sharp and cold, cut through the haze of medication. Money. My father's mother, a woman I barely knew, had passed away when I was 21. She despised my mother's social climbing and had seen right through my father. She left me $150,000 in a trust fund with a single condition: it was locked until my 27th birthday. It was my escape hatch. My seed money to one day start my own firm, to finally get out from under the shadow of legacy homes. I was just under a year away from accessing it. I sat up, the pain making me gasp. My parents knew about the trust. My father had seen the paperwork, and they were drowning. This wasn't just a feeling anymore. It was an equation. Their desperation plus my assets equaled a horrible, sinking feeling in my gut. I didn't wait until morning. I didn't second-guess myself. The girl who used to crave their approval was gone. She'd been left to die in an ICU. The person who remained was a creditor. This was no longer a family dynamic. It was a business problem. I found my phone and dialed a number I knew from college. Sarahi. It's Clara. I know it's late. Sarah and I had spent countless all-nighters together in architecture school. But she'd had the good sense to pivot to law. Now, she was a trust and estate attorney. Clara, oh my God. I heard about your surgery. Are you okay? I'm recovering, I said, my voice flat, trying to keep the tremor out of it. Listen, I need a favor. A legal one, and I need you to just trust me. This is going to sound paranoid. Okay, she said, her voice shifting from friendly to professional. I'm listening. I have a trust, $150,000. Locked until I'm 27. My parents, they're in financial trouble. I just have this horrible feeling. Can you check on it? I don't know. Make sure it's secure. Make sure they haven't tried anything. There was a pause on the line. Clara, a trust is a fortress. They can't just try anything. It's not their money. I know, I said, my voice quiet. But you don't know them. They're desperate. Can you just, please, look into it? For my peace of mind, another pause. Yeah, she said finally. Of course I can. Let me make some calls in the morning. I'm sure it's fine. Clara. But I'll check. You just focus on healing. I hung up, but I didn't feel any peace. I just felt cold. I knew, with the kind of certainty that settles in your bones, that it was not fine. Sarah called back 24 hours later. I was propped up on the couch, trying to sketch with a shaking hand, when my phone buzzed. Clara, she said, and her voice was completely different. The friendly warmth was gone. It was replaced by the sharp, cold, angry precision of a lawyer. I'm glad I'm your attorney. Because what I found, it's unbelievable. I gripped the phone. What? What did you find? You weren't paranoid, she said, her voice tight. You were right. They didn't just try something. Clara, they did it. They filed an emergency petition for conservatorship. They did it 3 days ago, while you were in the ICU. The pencil dropped from my hand. Conservatorship-like. To control my everything. Sarah cut in, her voice like ice. I'm looking at the petition right now. They filed it with the court, claiming you were, and I am quoting, medically compromised and incapable of managing her own affairs due to septic shock and cognitive impairment. I couldn't breathe. Cognitive impairment. It gets worse, Sarah said, and I could hear her flipping a page. They specifically petitioned for immediate emergency access to your $150,000 trust. What? What reason did they give? I whispered. Get this, she said with a humorless laugh. To ensure continuity of medical care and pay for any unforeseen, high-cost treatments not covered by insurance. They were positioning themselves to drain your inheritance. Clara, using your surgery as the excuse. I just sat there, silent. The blood draining from my face. It all clicked into place. The faked panic. The visit. How long until you're back on your feet? The important Cherry Creek development. They weren't planning to ask me for money. They were going to take it. They were going to steal my grandmother's gift. My escape hatch. to fund their failing business. And they were using my near-death experience as the legal crowbar to do it. This wasn't neglect. This wasn't just being selfish. This was fraud. It was premeditated. Criminal-level theft. I didn't cry. I didn't feel sadness. I rubbed my eyes, trying to summon some kind of grief for the parents. I thought I had. But there was nothing. There was only clarity. This wasn't a breakdown. It was a balance sheet. And for the first time in my life, I was seeing the numbers clearly. Sarah, I said, and my voice was as cold and steady as hers. What do we do now? Now, I could hear the smile in her voice. Now, we let them think they're winning. You're going to get stronger. I'm going to draft a counter petition that will not only block theirs, but will accuse them of attempted fraud and breach of fiduciary duty. And then, Clara, then you're going to set a meeting. It took another 3 weeks for me to be strong enough. 3 weeks of physical therapy. 3 weeks of Sarah building our case. 3 weeks of my parents leaving increasingly annoyed voicemails. Clara, we really need to talk about the Cherry Creek designs. This is getting unprofessional. I let every call go to voicemail. Finally, I was ready. I called my father back. My voice was polite, quiet, and cold. You're right. We should meet. I have some ideas about the new development I want to run by you. And I want to discuss my future involvement. Good, he said. His voice clipped. Finally, our office? Tomorrow at 10. No. I said, my lawyer's office, downtown. She's helping me draw up a new contract for my services. There was a pause. He hated this. Hated me having a lawyer. Fine. He snapped. 10, don't be late. The conference room at Sarah's firm was all glass and brushed steel, overlooking the city. It was cold, sterile, and bright. I sat at the long table, my back straight. On my right was Sarah, all sharp angles and legal pads. On my left was Grandpa Paul. He wore his best and only suit, and he just sat there, as solid as an oak. His hands folded on the table, his eyes fixed on the door. My parents bustled in at 10:03. 3 minutes late, just like they always were. It was a power move. My father, David, was already talking into his phone. I'll call you back. Just handling some family business. He snapped it shut and looked at me. Annoyed? Clara, this is an impressive setup. A bit excessive-y. Don't you think? My mother, Susan, smiled tightly at Sarah. Thank you for fitting us in. I'm sure this won't take long. We're just here to sign Clara's new design contract. We're not here to discuss a design contract, Sarah said, her voice cutting through the pleasantries. She slid 3 thick, stapled documents across the polished table. We're here to discuss this. My father's eyes narrowed. He picked up the top document. He read the title, What is this counter petition to deny conservatorship and alleged fraud? His face, usually so tan and confident, went to pale. Ashy, gray. That, Sarah said, is our official response to the emergency petition you filed to gain control of Clara's assets while she was in the ICU. The one where you claimed she was cognitively impaired. My mother let out a small, strangled sound. I don't... David, what is she talking about? Shut up. Susan. My father hissed, his eyes scanning the page, moving faster and faster. This is slander. It's ridiculous. You can't prove any of this. We can... Sarah said. She slid a second file across the table. This one's my favorite. It's a full financial audit of Legacy Homes, cross-referenced with the loan applications for your Cherry Creek development. It shows you're on the verge of bankruptcy, and it shows you needed an immediate cash infusion of... What was it? She checked her notes. $150,000. Funny. That's the exact amount of Clara's trust fund. The room was dead silent. broken only by the sound of my father's heavy, panicked breathing. My mother broke first. The perfectly styled mask shattered, and her face crumpled. Clara, please, she whimpered. Real, ugly tears streaking her makeup. Please, you don't understand. The business, the market. We'll lose everything, we'll lose the house. So you decided to steal mine, I asked. It was the first time I'd spoken. My voice didn't shake. It was as cold and hard as the glass table between us. My father's head snapped up. The panic was gone, replaced by pure, narcissistic rage. He slammed his fist on the table, making the water glasses jump. You ungrateful little... After everything we've done for you, everything we've given you, you'd ruin this family, you'd ruin us over a little money. I stood up slowly, the pull on my incision a dull, steady reminder. I looked him right in the eye. All the fear, all the years of needing his approval, it was just gone. You are not my family, I said. My voice quiet, but it filled the room. A family doesn't leave their daughter to die in a hospital. A family doesn't text, "We're with clients" when she needs emergency surgery. And a family damn sure doesn't file a petition to steal from her while she's still unconscious. I pointed to the door. My lawyer will see you in court. Get out. The court case wasn't a battle. It was a demolition. The judge, a sharp woman who looked like she'd seen everything, I'll read my parents' petition, then looked at the evidence Sarah had gathered. She looked at their panicked, evasive answers on the stand. It was a slaughter. He didn't just throw out their petition. He launched a full investigation into legacy homes for fraudulent practices. That house of cards, the Fragile Legacy, it came down all at once. The banks called in their loans. The Cherry Creek development was seized. Their sterile Mountain View show home went into foreclosure. The brand they had killed for, the image they had chosen over their own daughter, it evaporated in less than a month. 6 months later, I was sitting at my own desk, in my own small office. The sign on the door just said, Clara Designs. I had my $150,000, but I wasn't just using it to get by. I was using it to build. I was starting my own firm. A small one, focused on sustainable, honest homes. The kind people could actually live in. On my desk, I held the small, hand-carved wooden box my grandfather had given me. I ran my thumb over the perfect, seamless joints. This was a real legacy, something built with patience, honesty, and love. That day in the lawyer's office, I didn't just fire my parents. I had to let go of the idea of them. And that hurts, in a way no surgery ever could. There's a strange, quiet grief in admitting that the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally are incapable of it. There's a guilt that comes with choosing to save yourself. A voice that whispers you should have just endured it. Because that's what family does. Right. But I've learned that's not what family does. That's what a hostage does. Letting go of a toxic blood relationship isn't an act of betrayal. It's a declaration of emotional independence. It's the moment you stop setting yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. And for anyone listening who's ever felt like I did, for anyone who has ever felt like they were on the outside of their own life, the invisible one, the one who was always trying to earn a seat at a table that was never meant for them, this is for you. Your worth is not determined by who claims you. It is not defined by the people who fail to see you. Your legacy is not the one they assign to you. It's the one you build with your own 2 hands. You are not on the outside. You are on the edge of your own true life. The family you choose, the one built on respect and loyalty, is waiting for you. And trust me, the peace you'll find when you finally stop begging for their love is worth more than any inheritance. Thank you for listening to my story.